Good morning to everyone here in the chapel and those now online as well. And poor Bo is trying to do about 6 things at once in there. As we start today, I acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we are meeting, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. Today we do church on land that was stolen and never ceded. Hartwell is a fully affirming community and fully committed to being a safe place for all people, regardless of gender, sexuality, family background, economic situation. Regardless of how old you are, where you come from, what abilities you have, what languages you speak, what religion or spiritual path or tradition or ethical conviction you follow. Everyone is welcome here, and we want everyone to feel safe here. Julie. Sorry. Each week we light the Christ candle to remember the light of the world, the focus that darkness can never overcome the light. It's going to be one of those days. Yeah, it's the fan, definitely.
Christ candle, Nina, why
We look at a Western TV.
terrible match to take the first.
It'll be the last time, Julie.
You might need to turn the fans down. Or you can just
Is it?
Yeah.
Got it? It's the fans. But I felt the fans were necessary because it was so still and humid in here. So today we're talking about, will the real Christmas stand up? Because there's lots of Christmases. We all do it in different ways, and Brian is going to cover many of those. I was going to too, but I thought that's just stealing his thunder, so I'll stay out of that one. But we're going to start with a centering meditation, just to still ourselves and get ready for the service. Get comfortable. You may wish to close your eyes, or you could concentrate on the candle that represents God's light and love in this space. As we approach this Christmas season with all its busyness, it is good to stop and ponder its meaning. I thought it was a bit early yet for real Christmas carols. So we're going to start with it's a Christmas carol, but not a common one. It came upon the midnight clear. To
Our reading this morning is Galatians chapter 4, verses 4 and 5. But when the fullness of time had come, God sent his Son, born of a woman, born under the law, in order to redeem those who were under the law, so that we might receive adoption as children.
Trevor asked me this morning, I'm really keen to see what you do with that verse. And I am too, because probably not much. But anyway. Here we are. I wonder how everybody's doing today. We get to be with friends. We get to be with fellow pilgrims today. Be part of this community. But we're not just bodies sitting here today, we're bodies with very complicated emotions, memories, dreams, and all those things are bubbling up inside us today. So if you haven't yet, through that centering meditation that Rosemary took us through, just take a moment to remember that you're here. You're here with friends, and you're here despite all the complexity that the past week has brought, and all the kind of thoughts and emotions that the next week might inhabit too. So with this title, Will the Real Christmas Please Stand Up? For those who would know, anybody know Eminem? Yeah, some people do. Yeah, a few, thank you. Show of hands, let's actually test this out. Who knows the Eminem? Oh, nice. Yeah, nice. Okay, so not the chocolates. You know Eminem? Both. The chocolates and the, okay. So next question is, who actually listens to Eminem? Okay. Ah, there we go. Yeah. I do vicariously through my kids, who I never thought would listen to Eminem, but there you go. So I'm not going to rap today. Sorry for those that were hoping. I know Michael, I've subjected you all to my hair journey, which is slightly improving maybe. I kind of wore a hair bun yesterday and got some really negative comments around that. Although I was at a Sterling gathering with quite a generally older demographic. But so anyway, I might experiment with that sometime. So yes, I'm not going to subject you to my rapping, although I can beatbox. So one day when I'm feeling really confident, I might do that privately. So we're about to enter Advent, which is the season in the Christian liturgical calendar that marks the beginning of the church year, which is an interesting way of putting it. So it generally spans 4 Christmases, that would be long. That would be a big wait. 4 Sundays before Christmas. And the term Advent, for those that don't know, comes from the Latin word adventus, which means coming or arrival, and particularly with reference to Jesus, and that perfect timing, the arrival into the venue. So the next few weeks we're going to be touching on various dimensions related to Advent. So today's not really officially part of Advent, so I'm calling today the Advent of Advent, the waiting of the waiting. No, I'm being a bit silly. But when I'm talking about will the real Christmas please stand up, I'm having a bit of fun. I'm certainly by no means suggesting that I've got the perfect view on Christmas, and that we simply need to discover it and actualize it. But I am curious for myself, and perhaps for us, is how we approach Christmas time, and what is our mode of being or our way of moving over this period of time for Christmas. So in terms of setting the scene, I'm going to touch on a few things today that will get picked up in the next kind of 3 to 4 weeks. But I'm just going to speak briefly about the origins of Christmas. I won't get into, well, I'm going to go a little bit of detail, and then I'll pick up some of that in the next few weeks. And how it relates to some of our current practices as a way of framing it. So the roots of Christmas, many of us might know this, goes way beyond Christianity and its origins, and in terms of the way it's been framed. And a lot of it is actually what would be seen to be pagan origins. Does anybody kind of know that? Some of us might know that. Yep. So a lot of the Christian traditions that we have roots in pre-Christian pagan festivals and practices, which we'll be doing later. No, we won't. As Christianity spread through Europe, the church incorporated and transformed these various customs in terms of celebrating Christ's birth. So to give you some examples, you might know some of them. The winter solstice celebrations. So many ancient cultures celebrated the winter solstice, marking the shortest day of the year and a return to longer daylight hours. And so these symbols were about renewal, about hope, about the triumph of light over darkness. The famous one as well is Roman Saturnalia. So this was a week-long Roman festival. So they really did it properly, honoring Saturn, the god of agriculture, which was held from December the 17th to the 23rd. So it featured feasting, which we do, gift-giving, and the temporary social role reversals. So that kind of in the medieval period, the carnival idea where things would get inverted for a day. And I'll pick up on some of that stuff in the next few weeks. But it had this kind of role reversal dynamic where you could kind of let loose a little bit. The Yule, which is kind of Norse or Germanic tradition. So the Yule was a midwinter festival celebrating the rebirth of the sun. Traditions include burning the Yule log, decorating with evergreen branches, which we do, and honoring the deities associated with nature and sun. So although the exact date of Jesus' birth is unknown, December the 25th was chosen because it aligned with Roman and other festivals. At the time, a birthday of the unconquered sun. You might have heard that before, and celebrating the sun god. So Christians were quite clever in that sense, connecting with the culture where they were at, and engaging it in dialogue and using that time to bring their perspective and meaning as part of that conversation. And so this word pagan, it used to be a word that used to make me super nervous as a Christian. Maybe that's just my journey. But the word itself, did it make you nervous as well? Did you raise your hand? Yeah. What made you nervous about it, John? Sorry, I'm putting you on the spot.
No, I just thought it was bad.
Yeah.
Something going on with that. Wasn't right.
Yeah, but it literally means villager or rustic, which actually sounds kind of appealing. So, or a country person, right? So it referred to somebody who lived in the countryside as opposed to the city, which was the urbs, the urban life. And so obviously, particularly early on, a lot of the Christians were in the city, and a lot of the pagan rituals continued out into the rural areas, and that's the history of that name. But perhaps sometimes we need to be more pagan in our attitudes and move outside of our comfort zones into the wilderness to learn and think anew. And so we're going to try a little bit of that in the next few weeks. Maybe we need to be like the Magi, for example, who were outside of the traditional boundaries of Judaism at the time. And we're going to talk about them as well in about a few weeks. But just briefly, in light of today, I want to mention a few things about the Magi. So the story of the Magi is only found in the Gospel of Matthew, I think. Somebody can fact, is that right? Okay. I wasn't sure about that when I wrote it down. That was from memory. And the Magi are described as wise men or astrologers from the east who followed the star to find the newborn Jesus and brought gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. So the Bible actually doesn't specify their number, but traditionally three, an idea of three gifts. It doesn't mention their names, or that they were kings, right? So those details were kind of added at a later point in time. The term Magi itself is derived from the Greek magoi, which I know you're all very excited about, which referred to the priestly class of Zoroastrianism in Persia, okay, who were known for their astrology and their dream interpretation. And so this kind of aligns with what we see in Matthew's account. So, don't be nervous. I'm not making an argument for paganism or astrology, although, let's all be open. But what I am wondering about as we prepare ourselves for the Advent period, as we prepare ourselves into Christmas period, is whether we might seek to bring a sense of discernment and intentionality that the Magi suggest we might do in terms of making our way through the world. And we'll talk about that in 2 weeks' time. But also in the same way that the story of the Magnificat with Mary, the Annunciation, what does that say about being surprised or the unexpected? Can we be attentive to the unexpected over the next few weeks? And so Mary, an angel appeared to Mary last week. Sarah read Mary Oliver's poem on the angel. We'll probably read that again. It's a pretty fascinating poem. And whether you believe in angels or not, and we'll talk about some of that in 2 weeks' time because it's an interesting conversation. But there is something about being surprised by this being and what that means for Mary and her story and the way she moves in the world that we're going to unpack as well. So can we, as individuals, as a church, can we, like the Magi, be intentional in following the stars and the signs that we see in the next 4 weeks? Can we look for signs to follow, whether it's conversations with people, whether it's needs that we can address? Can we follow that star and bring ourselves and our gift to those conversations and people? If we're going to be open to the unexpected like Mary, and if we're going to be intentional like the Magi this Christmas, I wonder if, and maybe if I'm speaking too much to myself here, that's all right, see if this resonates with you, but I wonder if we need to change our mode of being, the kind of way that we move in the world. Perhaps we need to slow down a little bit over Christmas time, which is difficult, right? Because Christmas feels like a time of acceleration. It's so busy. There's a lot of consumerism wrapped up in Christmas. There's a lot of dogma, depending on which space you find yourself up, around beliefs that get wrapped up with Christmas. But perhaps we can try to do it differently. Perhaps we can be, as I've said, intentional and open to the unexpected. So this silly season, with all the busyness that's going on, parties, presents, it is a crazy time. It's a silly time, but it's also not a happy time for many people. When Rosemary was asking, Rosemary actually said, "Oh, this is what I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about talking about the pagan origins of Christmas, and I'm also thinking about talking about that it's sad." And I thought, "Oh, okay, you must have read my notes or something along those lines." And I think that's important to note, not only for ourselves, the sadness we might feel as we go into Christmas time, but particularly others for whom family members are no longer with them, or suffering or going through difficult times. I believe that sometimes there's celebrations, something called the Blue Christmas, is that right? Where people do that. My dad loved Christmas. I was hunting this morning to try and find a photo. I've got a photo of myself and Tiggs, and Miller was about 3 months away from being born, is that right? Something along those lines. And my dad was dying, so we knew he was going to die, but I'll try and find it over the next few weeks. But so I find myself over Christmas feeling that sense of sadness as I think back on the fun that my dad used to have at Christmas. It was the time where he kind of just really let loose and had fun. So for all of us, that might be people that we're going to be missing this Christmas, but let's also be mindful for others and to engage with them as well. So it's a mixed bag, Christmas, kind of like a Santa sack, which my kids still want. It's amazing. Milla's like 18 and she's like, it's coming, right? It's coming. What's that? Still get them.
My 59, 49.
49. I thought when Milla was 18 we'd start saving money. That was my hope.
Just give small things in the bag.
Yeah, all right. There you go. I don't get one. Anyway, I'm not going to get bitter. The other thing about Christmas that we need to be mindful of is that we get to spend time with people we don't like spending time with, maybe. Am I allowed to say that? Like, what's that? Have to, yeah. You know, you can choose your friends, but you can't choose your family. It's sometimes sad. I know some of us have wonderful but I'm just saying there's going to be those moments and those conversations, right, that we're going to be sitting next to someone, and how are we going to handle that? I've tried to be a little bit more mature over the years and seek out those people, and it's still hard. But you know, the extended family sometimes that I get together with in our world there's a few racist comments that get dropped, a few homophobic slurs that get dropped, and then my daughters are like all over that, like they just go for the challenge, and I'm just tensing up inside like this is Christmas. So as well, I suppose for many of us with people that could be quite challenging. So just being mindful of that. So my challenge, at least at this point, and we'll unpack stuff over the next few weeks, is to kind of ask us a set of questions around, or ways, let me take that back, a set of questions, a set of acts or behaviors that we might want to work with that will shape our mode of being as we move through these next 4 weeks. So what would it mean to be present over the next month to the people and conversations that we engage with? Now, no one can be fully present, but to kind of bring that sense of intentionality, to be where you are when you're there is another way of saying it. Again, to be attentive to the unexpected. If you're not present, sometimes it's difficult to see that, as we'll find out with Mary, although she went for it. So let's try slow down. Let's see if we can see things differently. The Sufi mystics speak about if you're going to see things differently, your mode of seeing, you need to change your mode of being, the way you move in the world. And if you move in a certain way, you'll end up seeing things different, see things differently as well. But over this time, we're so busy and there's so much going on, it's difficult to see an angel, maybe. And it's difficult to see a star, maybe. There's something called the selective attention test. Has anybody ever heard of that? You studied psychology, but it's another more colloquial way. It's called the gorilla psychology experiment. So it's amazing. You can go online on YouTube and just search it. When I first learned about it when I was studying psychology, I didn't believe it, and then I watched it on YouTube and I'm like, okay, it's real. So the sense of when things are so busy, they dress somebody up in a gorilla suit and they run through this group of people, and nobody said after, did you see the gorilla? And everyone, well, we didn't see the gorilla, because there's something about our attention that we can't see the unexpected, or we can't see the stars sometime in the midst of all the busyness. So this Christmas, if we shift our attention and prepare ourselves, we might be surprised. So as I said, Advent's about waiting. When I was a kid, I was really excited about the Advent calendars. Well, I was so desperate to eat the chocolate. Like, I used to cheat. I really actually used to cheat, and then I used to kind of blame it on my sister or my brother around getting the chocolate. But perhaps we can have an Advent journal. I don't know how many of you journal, but perhaps over the Advent period, if you could take just 5 minutes out of the start of your day. I know we're all different personalities, we do things differently, but just as an exercise, if over Advent, if you were to spend just 5 minutes at the beginning of your day, just writing down some thoughts as a way of preparing yourself, being open to the unexpected, the surprising, changing your mode of being, what would that feel like, and what would it do? So it's not a chocolate, sorry, but just kind of that intentionality to the next few weeks. So as part of that process, when you're writing things down, for those 5 minutes, what would it like to slow down just to slow down. So everything's, you've still got to buy the presents, you've still got to do all the organising, all the Christmas parties, all the carols, all the stuff that's going on. What would it feel like to slow down for 5 minutes and notice what you're feeling in the midst of all that busyness? So it's to write down, how am I feeling right now, right? What am I worried about? Best thing is to bring our worries to the surface rather than pretend that they're not there. By pretending that they're not there, that results in the stress. So what are you worried about today? What are you noticing? And then what is surprising you at the moment? What are you seeing that you haven't seen before? And just make a journal of that. So you don't have to do that. You might want to do that on your phone if that's easier. 5 minutes, hit record, and just speak for 5 minutes. Just slow down, notice how you're feeling, notice what you're worried about, and what's kind of surprising you. So that's a kind of a practice that you might want to do to kind of change your mode of being so we can see stars and the unexpected. And then 2 little behavior things. Now, these might seem a little bit weird, so take it or leave it. Right? But as you're going about buying presents, if you're like my mom, you've done that 3 months ago. But for those of you that haven't, when you go to the store to buy the present, when you're paying for the item, now I know our capitalist economy doesn't like us meeting people when we pay for things anymore, so we have to do self-checkout. Just don't do the self-checkout. Go to the other person there, that's the human being, and when you're buying that item, look them in the eye. Just for a moment, look them in the eye and say, how are you going this Christmas? Or something like that. Gee, it must be really busy. And just look them in the eye and see what happens, and see if you're surprised in that moment. So small little practice that might go a long way in terms of shifting our mode of being, and we might be surprised, and we might see a star. Another practice is just 2, and I am coming to a close. Who is likely to be left out this Christmas that you know? And you might do that as part of your journaling. Who is likely to be left out? Could you phone them over this Advent period? Could you just give them a 5-minute call? I think the statistic is 38% of Australians suffer from loneliness. So it's quite likely that many of the people you know are feeling really lonely, and particularly over this period of time are feeling incredibly lonely. I'll remind us of that on Christmas. So Christmas Day, when you leave this place, hands-free, so don't drive in the car, you know, but phone somebody when you leave this place on the way to your lunch that you feel could do with a call. But particularly over this period of time, just think of people that are lonely, that might want to be included in some of the stuff that we're doing. So Advent journal, look somebody in the eye, and look out for the lonely. So the real Christmas is about bringing ourselves, I think, to the objects and the people that we're engaging with. Christmas is not what we always expect. We'll pick up some of this in the next few weeks with the origins that we briefly hinted at. It's also a time of sadness and difficulty and busyness and intensity. Perhaps we can attempt to adjust our mode of being in this time so that we might see angels and stars. This requires a slowing down, a checking in with ourselves, and shifting some of our behavior patterns and our ways of thinking. So as we land, if you feel comfortable closing your eyes, I'm just going to spend 3 minutes, and I'm going to ask a set of questions and just see what resonates for you or not as I ask those questions, and what bubbles to the surface. And that might be indicative of some of the things that you might want to give yourself to over the next few weeks. So literally, I'll read a question, and I'm going to give about a 30-second gap between each question so you can just sit with it. When you think of lonely people, who are some of the names that bubble to the surface? When you think of those who might be lonely during Christmas, what are some of the names that bubble to the surface? What would it feel like to look at the teller or the person that you're buying a gift from in the eyes? What would you ask them? What would you say to them? And lastly, are you willing to be open to being surprised and to being intentional this Christmas period? Are you willing to be open to being surprised by the unexpected and to be intentional this Christmas period? Amen. Taster for next week, we're looking at the Magnificent Mary and the Annunciation. I will stumble over those words, so I'm not going to try it again. Mary the Magnificat. The seeing of angels is one of the most cross-cultural similarities that anthropologists have studied. Think about that.
There we go. The other thing I thought about, which Brian didn't get to, was the virgin birth, but that's another whole story. I won't go there today.
Oh, that's controversial.
Right, in the vein of not really singing Christmas carols, we're going to sing the Word of Life, which is it actually tells the whole Jesus story. So. No, we're right now.
We're right now, verse 2.
Sorry. By the Galilean lake, where the people flock for teaching, the most precious word of life, and their mouths as well as preaching, for the good of our soul. And his name when we call him, bringing health, love, and laughter to life now and ever after, for breathed his last and died, forgiving for the poor of us all. And is there when we call him, bringing health, love, and laughter to life now and ever after, for the poor of us all. In a garden just at dawn, hear the cry of human violence, the most precious word of life, cleared his throat and ended silence for the good of us all. And is here when we call him, bringing health, love, and laughter to life now and ever after, for the good of us all. It's a nice rollicking Irish tune, that one. Everyone is welcome to share here at the Lord's table. I hope you online have some food and drink available to you so you can share in this time of communion. I must admit I've been immersed in Christmas for weeks already. I sing in 3 choirs and we've been doing Christmas carols for months. Fairly over them, but you know, it's great when you get up and actually perform, which I did yesterday in 34 degrees and a strong northerly wind. A little choir from the Box Hill Community Choir sang at the Mont Albert Village. At least we stood in the shade to sing, but it was jolly hot. One of the things we sang was Mary's Boy Child, and it's a well-known carol. But we had a slight change to the words. I'm not sure who did it, but rather than the usual line in the chorus, "We will live forevermore," we sang, "We will love forevermore," which is simple but profound, and it moves the sentiment from personal gain to community engagement. In the afternoon, I went to the Sterling farewell and I met people I hadn't seen for 15 years, people whose little kids were now 22 and made me feel really old. And as part of the service, we sang Daring Dancing Trinity, which was one of my mum's favourite hymns. Well, the tune certainly was. She did like it, yeah. The last verse is, "Love releases us for taking one more risk than we might dare. Glory breaks through dark and danger, shows the Lord transfigured there. God who planted our affections, help your gifts to grow more free. Fan in us the fires of loving, daring, dancing Trinity." Love is a powerful thing. It can transform people. It is an impetus for this meal. Jesus showing us how much God loves us and modelling how we should behave. As Jesus did on the night he was betrayed, we will give thanks for this meal. Merciful God, thank you for this simple meal of love, grace and forgiveness. As we take these foods, strengthen our determination to live your way, shining your love into the world. Amen. We'll take our communion together. Oops. I thought I was being so clever. As I read the words of institution. On the night before he died for us, Jesus was at table with his friends. He took bread, gave thanks, broke it and gave it to them and said, "Take it, eat. This is my body which is given for you. Do this in remembrance of me." As supper was ending, Jesus took the cup of wine. Again he gave thanks and gave it to them and said, "Drink this, all of you. This is my blood of the new covenant, which is poured out for you and for all, for the forgiveness of sins. Whenever you drink it, remember me."
In this time, there'll be some words and then some pauses. So in those moments of pause, have your own thoughts and reflections and prayers. So let us join together our hopes, intentions, and prayers. But when the set time had fully come, God. In this season of waiting and anticipation, remind us in the moments ahead what this season is about. May we be freed from to-do lists and commitments which overwhelm and distract. May we claim times of stillness and silence. May we be slow and calm to embrace and to offer the hope and gladness of Advent. In this season of waiting and anticipation, we have on our hearts those for whom the moments ahead carry challenge, conflict, loss, and reminders of loss. In our thoughts, we name those who carry the weight of these days, those close to us and those who we do not know. We ask for comfort, for healing, for reconciliation, courage, strength, and companionship on the way. In this season of waiting and anticipation, we consider what faith means to us, the knowing and the not knowing. May we live as people of optimism, courage, persistence and love in the moments ahead. As we seek to be a community where through dynamic spirituality and love in action, people are encouraged and empowered to grow, to be transformed, and to be reconciled as individuals and in community to create a better world. And when the fullness of time was come, God. Amen.
Morning. I'm just going to give you an update from the leadership team meeting that we had on Monday night. So the first thing we did was elect the portfolio leaders for the next 12 months, and they're the same as the portfolio leaders for the last 12 months. So that's a big surprise. So Rosemary's the hospitality lead, Mike the digital lead, Cole the social housing lead, Danny operations lead, and Merrill is the spirituality lead. And I'm the convener. So technically there's no changes from how we operate. from last year, but there is some minor changes. So in the spirituality and hospitality portfolios, the leadership team members are not going to chair those portfolio teams. They're going to be the liaison between the portfolio group and the leadership team. So, for example, last year Meryl was the person responsible for the spirituality group, but actually Andy Teakins chaired that group. So we're just playing around with some of this. And this year, Katrina is going to chair the hospitality group, but Rosemary is going to be the link with the leadership team. So there's a few things this does. One is it enables us to manage conflict of interest, so we don't really need two members from the same family or husband and wife on the leadership team. But it also enables us to use people's gifts. So if someone's a better chairman or gifted in the chairing role than another person, then that's a good way to use those skills. But in this particular case with Rosemary and Katrina, Rosemary's actually going to pick up a number of the admin pieces that Katrina's been working on, which enables Katrina to focus on the hospitality group. So there's some real win-wins with this, and I think it's a really good thing. Just to let you know that on the 2nd of February is the Gay Pride March, and we as a church are going to march in the march. It will replace our morning service on the 2nd of February. However, we're going to come back from the march and have lunch together, probably in the hall. So that's the plan for February the 2nd. And the real reason for that is our commitment to inclusivity and diversity. And so we want to be able to show that to the community more broadly, that that's something that's important for us. The last thing just to chat about is the CCVT Prop Corp issue. So there's been an update since the AGM. So we got a letter last week from CCVT starting the negotiations around dispersal of one of the properties. So at this point, we're in a period of negotiation. There's no point really giving you the details at this point because it's not how it's going to end up. But I think there's a few points that you need to understand. So we are entering a period of negotiation to resolve this issue. It is likely that we will have to give up one of our properties, and this is likely to be the Hartwell property in Highfield Road. The leadership team understand we're not authorised to finalise any arrangements with CCVT without the approval of you. And the last thing to note is this will not be the end of issues with CCVT once we go through this process, because we've still got some other issues to sort out. So if we sell the Highfield Road property, we've still got some issues to sort out with this property. But at least if we can get this issue finalised, it enables us to be financially secure and then to start thinking much more broadly around how we implement our mission strategy. So that's a really good thing. So technically, Danny and I are coordinating this work, but really it's Danny and David doing most of the heavy lifting, and it's important that we really acknowledge and thank both of them for the work they've done around this, and I think we need to give them a clap this morning. And if you have any questions, just talk to any of the leadership team and we'll be happy to talk to you. Thank you.
Gee, it's tall. I know, I'm short. Notices. The one I'm bringing up is the market on the 6th and 7th of December. If you've got any items for the stalls. So on the 6th, it's going to be as the kids come out of school. There'll be a sausage sizzle. Michael will be playing Santa and we'll be having photos with Santa. And I wish I'd put that picture up. Well, he came on Friday night and tried on the suit to make sure it fitted. And so, yeah. Trouble is he's got a really big head. So
That week is going to be precarious.
Anyway, so you can talk to me or Barb or Jane Pallett if you want more details.
Rosemary, on that, we need people who will volunteer.
Oh yes, we need people to
On
actually
Saturday.
man stalls, especially Saturday. I'll be there on Friday, but Saturday I've got other things, unfortunately.
Secondly, if you've got time.
Barb's the girl.
Oh, right, we've got Meryl's all day. Anybody else? And it's, 11 till 4?
Yes. I doubt it'll run all the way to 4, usually these things. Yeah, yeah.
You've got a coffee machine.
Yeah, there'll be coffee, good coffee, proper coffee. Any other notices anyone wanted to bring up?
Choir.
Choir? Anyone interested in choir?
2 people tell me they're interested in the choir. I like to think there's more than that. Yeah, you and Janine.
Michael?
Michael, lovely.
Was there some sort of email?
There was. Oh, well, no, actually, sorry, there hasn't been an email. There's been a notice in the thingy, but
the world.
I will send out an email, but maybe if people might grab me after church today, because I think we might have our first practice after church next week.
Okay, that's good. I don't have other choir practice next week, so it works well. Now, where's Sue gone? Are you bringing that out now, Sue?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's there?
After the benediction.
After the benediction.
Where is it?
After
After the benediction.
I wanted to do it now. Oh, I've been told.
Well, let the benediction then.
Okay, benediction. Live as gently as you can, wherever you can, whenever you can, for this is the path of peace. Let go as gently as you can, wherever you can, whenever you can, for this is the path of truth. Love as generously as you can, wherever you can, whenever you can, for this is the path of hope. May the blessings of peace, truth and hope be with you and your kin and all this Christmas. Amen. Mike, start us off.
As I look here. May the road rise to meet you. May the wind be always at your back. May the sun shine warm upon your face. The rain fall soft upon your fields. And until we meet again, may God hold you in the palm of their hand. May God hold you in the palm of their hand.
John.
Yep. Got one more thing. I just need to get ready for this. Welcome everybody. It's not the end of the service. It's our esteemed leader's birthday tomorrow. And we have a birthday cake. So let's sing happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Brian. Happy birthday to you. Hooray! Hooray! Hooray!
What's happening in your life?